Welcome, Luddites, geniuses, and time ladies, to the 142nd episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 20th of January 2016, and featuring the Mark of the Rani, which I'm assuming is by Pip and Jane Baker, but my browser's freezing up for no reason, so
Correct.
I can't check the script.
It is by Pip and Jane Baker.
I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell,
Not to be confused with Tom and Colin Baker.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Always a pleasure.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
Diarrhea, cha-cha-cha. Diarrhea, cha-cha-cha.
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
You're not Sylvia! You're one of the Kung Fu creatures on the rampage! 2!
There's a reference.
I don't get it.
Garfield cartoon. It's like the one action sci-fi movie that was always out. That or its
Which
sequels.
cartoon?
Garfield.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So has Bill stopped with his freezing issues, or do I have to take over hosting duty?
Well, I just manually crashed Firefox so I can load it back up.
I will force its
although-
device.
Although
There's
that's
baby
technically the end of my part for the time until we get to like halfway through the news because
All
that's how
right.
we're rolling tonight.
So speaking of the news, let's go ahead and fire up the news here before we get on to our Mark of the Rani review. First thing off, we do have some birthdays this week, almost a half dozen. First thing is a happy birthday to Gemma Redgrave, who you might remember as being Kate Stewart in the last series of Doctor Who, as well as the series before, as well as the 50th anniversary special, as well as season 7. She turned 51 on the 14th of January and is probably getting ready to be in either Class or Series 10. We don't know for certain. Also, a happy birthday to Richard Franklin, who played Mike Yates, one of the original unit crew, back during the Third Doctor era. Mike turned 69 on the 15th of January and is currently working with Big Finish, if I recall, doing Companion Chronicles and Third Doctor audios.
Did you mean to call him Mike there?
Probably. Also, a happy birthday to Jeffrey Beavers, who is the third or second and a half master, depending on how you look at it. He was master during the Keeper of Traken, and also in a few Big Finish dramas. And I think he did some other acting for Doctor Who as well. He turned 64 on the 15th of January. His last known work was on Broadway in The Audience at some point in early to mid 2015.
And we've recently announced him as being part of a new Big Finish trilogy.
Yes, indeed. We did that last week.
So his work continues.
Also, a happy birthday to Christopher Bidmead, who was a script editor for the early Peter Davidson era. He was the writer of Legopolis and Castrovalva. He turned 75 on January 18th. And finally, a very happy birthday to Tom Baker, who you might recognize as being the Fourth Doctor.
I thought he was the
Mike.
caretaker.
Oh, he's that guy that wished us a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I thought he was that guy from Dungeons and Dragons.
You know.
Oh, you mean that little wrinkly elf? Yeah.
Anyway, Tom turned 82 today, the 20th of January. He is currently working with Big Finish, doing Fourth Doctor audio adventures. And we'll have some news about that later. A very happy birthday, Tom. Keep going.
Yay!
Yep.
Keep
Just
on
because
trucking,
you hit the 80 mark does not mean you need to stop. Keep going.
Yeah, by all
Yes.
means, keep on track.
And that's it for our birthdays.
Yep, and just as they are keeping on track, there are some tracks that must end, and so we begin with we continue with our lost stories here. Recently we have lost Robert Banks Stewart, writer creator of the Zygons, who died on 14th of January at age 84 from cancer. Alan Rickman, also known as Severus Snape, also the voice of Marvin from the theatrical version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, also died on 14th of January at age 69 from pancreatic cancer.
You might also recognize Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Just gonna
in
mention
Robin
he's
Hood,
on the
Prince
third
of
row right
Thieves.
next to Snape.
Hans Gruber from Die Hard.
Hans Gruber from Die Hard. Metatron from Dogma. And a dozen or so other roles. I mean, Alan Rickman was a very prolific actor.
Yeah.
Oh, also, he was the alien science officer on Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, speaking of Dogma, apparently Jay, the guy who plays Jay in those movies, actually said he learned the entire script from cover to back because he was afraid of Rickman. Because that dude's serious.
And you know that's serious going from Jason Mewes, who spent most of his time stoned.
Yeah. I want to say, you say
That
the
guy's
guy who
scary,
played
man.
Jay. To be more precise, he's Jay, and is also
He's
named
Jay
it.
more than he likes to admit sometimes. Yeah.
Jay is technically short for Jason.
Except he's not quite as loudmouthed as his film counterpart.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's usually not as vocal, but
Yeah, and as soon as he seriously cleaned up, so did Jay. I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Continuing on with lost stories, founding member of the Eagles, Glenn Fry, or is it Frey?
I'm not sure.
Died on.
Looks like Frey to me.
Yeah, sometimes it's also pronounced Fry, but we'll see. Died on 18th of January at age 67. Right? Why report this here? The Eagles made the song "Journey of the Sorcerer," which is best known as the opening theme for any version of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Well, except the book, but there's no sound in the book.
Yeah.
The sound of turning pages.
I'm sure when we read the book, that's the song that plays in our minds.
Yes.
By the way, I looked up
it's
Journey of the Sorcerer, and there's actually like 4 guys on guitar from the Eagles. It's from their Wikipedia, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well,
now we go on to our actual Doctor Who news, of which there is a total of one piece.
Hooray!
Plus lots of Big Finish.
Plus Big Finish. But it's time for awards. And web review / aggregator site Rotten Tomatoes posted their annual Golden Tomato Awards for Best Reviewed Movie, Series, etc. And Doctor Who Series 9 won for Best Sci-Fi / Fantasy / Horror Series in 2015 with a 100% positive review.
Wow.
Runners-up were Game of Thrones Season 5, Daredevil Season 1, and Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 1, all with 98%, and Hannibal Season 3 with 97%. It was also in a 4-way tie for Best Returning Series with The Americans, Fargo, and The Nick, but the award went to Fargo for whatever reason. This is Doctor Who's first time in the Golden Tomatoes since the television awards were added in 2013. Also of note is that Mad Max Fury Road picks up 3 Golden Tomatoes: Best Wide Release, Best Sci-Fi Movie, and Best Australian Movie.
Nice.
And it also picked up a nomination for Best Picture Oscar.
As well as 9 other nominations in the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the Oscars anymore.
Matt's all about the Golden Globes.
Well, I lost interest in the Oscars when they started admitting to the fact that most of the people that voting don't even watch these movies.
I am kind of paying attention this year because I'm kind of hoping Mad Max Fury Road win some, which might actually amp up George Miller to actually make some more.
Oh, it might also amp up the people that he made Fury
Oh,
Road
that's
with
right.
to go. By the way, yeah, Miller. You were saying
Last
about
week,
this other movie.
speaking of Miller, last week was the week we posted that article that was debunked, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
So
we
yeah,
wanna
over the
talk about that?
weekend, over the last week, we've had multiple articles come out from Miller saying typical reporters trying to talk to me on the carpet and misinterpreting everything I say. No, I'm still willing to do a sequel.
Just
Yep.
not
He said it's not the
next.
next thing that he's working on, but
It's just
he
not
is
the
trying to
next movie he's
some
working on
bad things.
immediately. He needs to give it a breather.
They wear him down, but he still has 2 scripts that he's working on in his head for
Yeah.
the next 2 Mad Maxes.
It's just a matter of when they get finished in his head and he can hammer them out.
Apparently,
figure
the
out who
issue
he's gonna
was that
trust.
it was very loud during the interview.
Yes, that's
Well-
what his interpretation of the
He-
botch
he-
interview was.
And the interviewer took off with what little and botched information they had anyway and went and posted it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they really listened at all.
Interestingly, I just had a discussion in the first meeting of my journalism class about the fact that due to the way journalism works with the internet and everyone's race to be the first one to post it, articles written with factual errors are becoming more and more common, even among generally respected sources. So this does not surprise me in the slightest.
And the
Sadly.
media slowly starts turning yellow. There was already yellow areas, but the rest of it's yellowing now too.
As far as I'm concerned, it's all brown.
All right, moving on. Big Finish Day 8 has recently concluded, and with it, a host of new Doctor Who information from BigFinish.com. First is the War Doctor and Leela. In 2017, an old friend will return to a hero's side in his greatest hour of need. John Hurt and Louise Jameson star in Doctor Who: The War Doctor, Volume 4, Casualties of War.
Interesting.
I believe that is the last. Yes, that would be the last scheduled War Doctor volume. So they are saving that toward the end. Whether or not there will be any other cameos between now and then is, of course, up in the air. There are probably more names than we can count of people that fans would like to see. But Leela, most recently best known from the Gallifrey series, although she also does Fourth Doctor adventures fairly commonly. Crossing over with this is definitely going to be very interesting, as she's, the only non-Time Lord that has reason to care what happens on Gallifrey with the Time Lords and the Daleks.
That, and she's actually kind of an almost perfect match for the War Doctor, to be honest.
I don't know.
The War Companion and the War Doctor?
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying, Ren?
I was actually disagreeing with that because the Doctor usually needs a counterpoint to him. You know?
So who would you suggest, Mel?
The middle
I
of the
don't know.
Time War?
I actually don't know of the existing companions who I would choose, but
I'm sorry, Leela's kind of
Flip.
high up there.
Oh,
other
God.
Than maybe
Can you
Jamie.
picture the War Doctor with Flip?
with Dodo.
Oh, good grief.
All right, moving to our next piece is the new countermeasures special, which will be okay. Let's see, bridge. Oh, there we go. A bridge between the two eras of the intrusion countermeasures group. I'm not sure what two eras they're referring to. I wish the article was a bit more clear, but it is covering the secrets behind the shocking events that ended Countermeasures Series 4, and will be coming out in July. Now, considering what year it is and considering past Big Finish articles, I'm guessing that the shocking secret is the Master, but that may or may not be true.
Well, what is Countermeasures about?
It's the group from Remembrance of the Daleks and their continuing adventures as essentially a proto-unit from before the actual formation of unit.
Group Captain Chunky Gilmore and his friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, essentially proto-unit.
I'm wondering if that's what they mean. Is they're trying to evolve countermeasures into the group that
I seem
Lethbridge
to
Stewart was
Yeah,
part
I
of
seem to
before Unit.
remember the original mention of new countermeasures special did have some mention of the fact that it was going to be heading toward Unit. So I'm kind of wondering if this is the countermeasures group around the time of, say, Web of Fear.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's what they might mean by the next era. Because you've got the Remembrance era, which is 63.
Yeah,
And then
which
you've
is
got
pretty much the start of the series. Yeah.
And then you've got Web of Fear, which was what, 68?
Kind of interesting that they're making like a little trail.
68 question mark.
68 or 78.
Yeah.
To quote Kate Stewart, depending.
And then you've got Unit, basically, what was it, like 18 months later?
It's around that, yeah. Not long after.
Yeah.
How can it happen in a year?
Now it's extremely disappointing that we can't have Colonel Lethbridge Stewart pop up and meet these guys, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
as our earlier
Unless somebody can do a Nicholas Courtney imitation.
Which would be nobody here.
as our earlier articles might have given you the impression of damn you cancer.
Yep.
No shit.
Mhm.
Speaking of Unit, that leads us nicely into our next piece. The first New Who Unit special is out already, and they have now announced Unit Shutdown coming in May of 2016. Do we have a blurb? I don't see a blurb.
Looks interesting. We seem to have a
Yep.
space ninja.
Space Ninja.
It looks like some sort of cybernetic ninja complete. Yeah, definitely plenty of Japanese looks to it, or aesthetic.
Semi-Japanese
Osgood,
aesthetics to
yeah.
it, yes.
With Osgood, Kate Stewart, and I'm thinking some of those actors might have been the same ones from Unit Extinction, without actually going back and checking that. So if I'm wrong, please don't misquote me.
Don't hurt me. Don't hit me on my tender ear.
And our final piece of information from Big Finish Day 8 is that Toshiko Sato will return to Torchwood. So she was, of course, the surviving female member of the group before Gwen joined in season 1, played by Naoko Mori, and is the tech genius of the group.
Mhm.
And not to spoiler anyone on Torchwood, but isn't she dead?
Yeah.
She's as dead as Yanto, and Yanto appeared in series 1, so no reason for. And Yvonne Hartman died before Torchwood started, and she appeared too. So we seem
Now
to
they're
be
just missing what's his face?
Owen.
Owen, yeah.
But I forget his actor's name.
He's too busy waiting for them to make another Pacific Rim movie.
Now they do seem to be hopping around the timeline on this, but it's worth a note that the opening installment to series 2 is called Torchwood: The Victorian Age, which Big Finish does say will pay a visit to the 19th century. So whether how much that's connected to everything else is up in the air.
John Barrowman, that's it.
Yeah, that one's John Barrowman. But I mean, this first one, there's an ongoing plot, even though it's by different actors. But I've only actually listened to The Conspiracy. I haven't been listening to the rest of the series as of yet, so I can't really tell you how connected they are. Other than that, there's the same underlying antagonist organization. So whether how connected series 2 will be to one another is also up in the air. But we do now know for sure that Tasha will appear in Torchwood Zone 10 by David. I'm assuming that's pronounced Llewellyn, possibly Llewellyn. I'm not sure.
Llewellyn?
Double L-E-W-E-double-L-Y-N.
Llewellyn.
Llewellyn.
That is one Welsh name I actually know how to pronounce.
Okay, it's Welsh. See, that was part of the thing, is I didn't know what nationality it was. If it was from a Romance country, then that's definitely a Y sound. But
no, it's Welsh. Yeah, I've seen that name a few times. Christmas Invasion, the scientist that was in charge of the Mars probe had that same name.
Yeah.
So moving on, I guess, to Big Finish other announcements. My God, they have a lot of announcements, and we already dropped a whole bomb of announcements at the beginning of the month. Geez, guys, can you slow down? You're turning our podcast into a commercial for Big Finish?
Nope. we gotta share all these new shows. Tom.
All right, so first one we have is Doctor Who: The Trouble with Drax, which is a Fourth Doctor special crossing with his old friend from his Academy days, Drax, the Cockney rogue Time Lord. And I mean rogue.
Although whether he's still Cockney after his regeneration caused by lack of actor is another story.
Yeah, originally Drax was played by Barry Jackson, who is deceased. And now he is being played by Ray Brooks. Yeah, whether he'll keep his Cockney accent, I don't know. Ray Brooks is known from The Knack and How to Get It, Kathy Come Home, Mr. Ben, and Daleks Invasion Earth 2150. The blurb is as follows: Ultrazar, the temporal Atlantis.
Drax married Susan?
What?
Isn't I seem to recall saying now that you mention it, I seem to recall seeing that the character he played in Daleks Invasion Earth is the Susan's love interest from that story. Oh no, but that didn't happen in the movie.
No, it did
Never
not.
mind. Okay.
Alternate universe.
Sit down and shut up, Bill. Okay, blurb again from the beginning before Bill opened his mouth. Ultrazar, the temporal Atlantis, a place lost to time. Believed by many to be a myth, it has long been the perfect location for the rich and powerful to hide away their most dangerous secrets. Until now. Because the somewhat crooked, not exactly honest, wheeler-dealer Cockney Time Lord known as Drax has found a map that leads to its location. And, at the behest of a manipulative businessman, he's going to use it. When the TARDIS is dragged out of the space-time vortex, the TARDIS crew aren't best pleased to see the Doctor's old school friend, even less when he press-gangs them into joining a raid on the most secure safe house in history. However, with Romana and K9 held hostage, the Doctor has little choice but to agree. With Drax in tow, he heads for the planet, which is where the trouble starts. Written by John Dorney and starring Tom Baker, Lala Ward, John Leeson, Ray Brooks, John Chalice, Hugh Fraser, Jane Slavin, Miranda Risen, and John Banks. Doctor Who, The Fourth Doctor Adventures, Trouble with Drax is available to pre-order from Berg Finish website. Ugh.
Berg Finish? What?
Berg Finish?
Big Finish. Excuse me, my tongue was already tired from rattling off that list of names. Next on the list.
The Berg Finish.
Want to get this done? We can turn this podcast around and go home.
We are home.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
we're
I
already
can
here.
play Rift.
All right.
Goodness.
Is the Second Doctor's new companion chronicles are now online. Recording has completed on Doctor Who: The Edge by Rob Nesbitt, starring Fraser Hines as Jamie McCrimmon and directed by Lisa Bowerman. The story is the fourth and final in the Doctor Who Companion Chronicles, The Second Doctor, Volume 1, available June 2016. Producer Ian Atkins says, although the second to be completed, The Edge is actually the fourth and last story in the new box set of Companion Chronicles, seeing the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe towards the end of their time together and looking at the effect that travel with the Doctor has had on a young Highlander.
There can be only one.
Here we are.
And here we are 49 years later with a Scottish Doctor.
Well, technically it didn't take that long.
No, it didn't, but
I
Oh
mean,
my god. What if he based his new face on an old Jamie McCrimmon?
it was literally only 21 years before we saw a Scottish Doctor.
yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are 49 years later with a Scottish Doctor.
I mean, it was literally only 21 years before we saw a Scottish Doctor.
21 years. Yeah. 21 years. 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 21
Mm.
So, like, the Doctor is what, Scottish every 6 regenerations or so?
I guess David Tennant doesn't count because he wasn't his doctor wasn't Scottish.
The actor was Scottish. The character was estuary, so no, it doesn't count. And I think that was the choice
Even though he spoke Scottish.
He spoke Scottish, but then again, the Doctor can speak just about anything. After all, Talons of Wang Chang has the Force Doctor talking in Chinese.
And we've heard him recalculate how baby is being spoken for us. So
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He also
But
apparently
yes.
speaks dinosaur. I like to learn that one.
But yes, this story was recorded on the 7th of January, which is 49 years to the day when the Broadcast of the Highlanders episode 4 aired, which is when Jamie joined the TARDIS crew.
Interesting. So sort of a pseudo anniversary for him, yeah.
Yeah. So also on appearing in this is Robert Whitelock as the opposite number on Fraser Hines. He is familiar to Doctor Who fans as Mahler in 2013's story The Bells of St. John. Well,
of course, as always, when Big Finish manages to get a milestone like that, they blow it in the article by mentioning that it was only by chance that happened, or there would have been cake. So they did not plan it out.
Doesn't matter because the cake would have been a lie.
Right.
I'm not sure Jamie would have gotten that joke.
He would have thought about it for a moment and just gone, lie!
All right. So let's go into our final set of Big Finish news. Yes, there's more.
Oh, okay. So it's finally my turn, huh? Again?
Well, if these guys would stop freaking Statler and Waldorfing me.
Dang.
Bill, move your cursor. It's all over the place, man.
There's a blue one that's not me.
Oh, wait.
Who is that?
That might be me.
That's not me.
Yep, it's round.
It's not me because my tab is closed, so.
Okay, we all have our cursors under control? Okay. Alright, so now for Big Finish new releases. The Churchill Years Volume 1, available now for download and order, is the Churchill Years Volume 1. As we've covered in the past, the Churchill Years is a set of 4 stories narrated by Ian McNeice as he reprises his role as Winston Churchill. From Victory of the Daleks, Danny Horn as Kazran Sardik from A Christmas Carol, Holly Errol as Lily Arwell from The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, and Nicholas Briggs as Ironsides from, well, you know, the stories are The Oncoming Storm featuring the 9th Doctor, Hounded featuring the 10th Doctor, Living History featuring the 11th, and The Chartwell Metamorphosis, which sadly does not feature the 12th Doctor. The set can be bought on CD for $28.33 or downloaded for $20. Any further comment on this one?
No, let's move on.
Okay.
I am your soldier.
Torchwood Uncanny Valley is also available. It is the 5th entry to the Torchwood range. The story is narrated by John Barrowman as Jack Harkness. What has made billionaire Neil Redmond emerge from his long seclusion? Captain Jack knows the answer and is prepared to go to any lengths to prove it. A couple of years ago, Neil Redmond was in a terrible accident. His recovery has been long and slow, but now he's back and looking better than ever. Much better than ever. Dark forces have been behind Neil's transformation. Dark forces that Jack has been hunting for a long time. But Captain Jack's never been able to resist the darkness.
Didn't I read that summary last week, Bill?
I think so.
It might have been a coming soon.
Yeah, I think I listed.
I'm not sure if I was here during the news last week.
You weren't.
So
yeah.
Wait,
What
Jack
evil
Harkness?
lurks in the hearts of men, the shadow knows.
Captain Jack will get you high tonight.
So wait, he's a Sith Lord now?
Use your
I think we've
anger.
gotten all our jokes out.
Yeah, come on, guys. Let's get this going here.
Yeah, all right, moving on to Premiere Week. This week marks a string of sci-fi related returns from winter breaks. While not all shows come back this week, some come back a couple weeks ago, and others, such as Gotham, have a bit more of a wait. The three shows that make up the Arrowverse, Arrow, The Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow, Star Wars Rebels, featuring Princess Leia Organa, and Agent Carter all either return to the small screen or have their series debut this week.
And I have watched none of them.
Neither
It
have I.
has to be on the week that I'm busy with the start of classes. It
Yeah,
couldn't have been on the
that's-
2 weeks I sat around bored.
Yeah, that's kind of my issue. It's been a very busy week for me, and I've been kind of running around like a chicken with my head cut off, getting stuff arranged for class. So, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Honestly, I'm way behind on the DC shows, even though I keep hearing they're really good compared to any of their movies of late.
Oh yeah. Like I actually like them better than the MCU right
Yeah.
now.
Speaking of DC movies, an incredible mashup has been posted of footage from Suicide Squad set to Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, and it is amazing. Actually, this is the latest official trailer from Warner Brothers for the movie.
And I was actually less than impressed. Not by the trailer stuff, by how they did the mashup. All the song was coming out of my left speaker, and then the occasional bit of movie sound out of my right.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah, so whoever mixed it badly.
Or you got a really bad quality version of the video.
I was the one that Bill posted, so
Huh.
Yeah, I listened to it from my mono speaker, so I didn't have
Oh.
Yeah, it
that,
was-
that experience.
yeah, it was kind of distracting. Because it would be sitting here and you're just hearing singing out of your left, and then you just hear a or something out of your right
I'm
speaker.
thinking that was YouTube, and I'm assuming that YouTube has stereo controls like that, right?
Yes. So it was whoever mixed it.
Yeah.
It was the
whoever
source.
mixed it and whoever posted it, maybe.
As for what I saw, I'm still not really impressed. Harley's okay, but I'm not overly impressed with her.
Mm-hmm.
I still
I think
don't
we
like
see
the
our
Joker,
first look of Killer Croc.
who looked okay, but
Still not overly thrilled.
Yeah.
Who was the fire guy? Do you know?
I don't. It's possibly Firefly. It might be their version of Heatwave. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Oh, it might be Diablo.
Might be. I don't know. Much like the prolific amount of cold guys, DC also has an extreme amount of firebugs. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah. If nobody's heard who was one that was supposed to appear in the movie, it's hard to place it. Definitely.
Well, I've not been paying that close attention because Suicide Squad, from the moment I've heard about it, has filled me with a whole lot of meh.
Yeah, pretty much. Nothing from the DC universe, cinematic universe, has got any kind of major attention on me.
Well,
At least
It
nothing
does say
positive.
El Diablo is supposed to appear. So
Okay,
Yes.
so it's probably El Diablo then. But actually, I'm mildly interested in the new Superman versus Batman because
Ugh.
Batflick isn't as bad as you saw as he looked.
No, he's not. He doesn't look bad. It's just the general movie overall does not thrill me.
What really kind of blas me, or it makes me go, that's miscasting, is their Lex Luthor.
They're Lex Luthor, and out of that, they're also having Doomsday coming out of this.
yeah,
too.
I honestly would have really preferred if Doomsday was a surprise reveal in the movie.
It would have been a
and
surprise
not one
reveal,
that-
and would have
yeah.
been like maybe something that they would have actually brought up at the very end of the movie, so that would have a full-fledged movie just for Doomsday.
Mm-hmm. But also, I'm not even talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about their casting. And at the moment, that Lex Luthor is horribly miscast. He would have made a great Riddler.
Yes, he would have been perfect Edward
He would have
Nygma.
been absolutely wonderful Edward Nygma. He has the Nygma
There's
personality.
been a lot of description as him being that he's Jim Carrey's Edward Nygma as Lex Luthor.
Well, no, because Jim Carrey's Edward Nygma is Jim Carrey. He's literally being every Jim Carrey trope in the world when he does that.
Yeah, he's
this
not the
doesn't
best
seem to
laser
have
man,
that
but
level of over the top. This doesn't seem to have that level of over the top, but he's more animated. And he doesn't have the calm confidence that you expect from Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's the number one thing that kind of seems to be
Mhm.
completely and totally missing from that character.
Yeah, that's really what was bothering it with me, is that that's the one thing you need to have with Lex Luthor. He needs to be calm and in control, and this guy is way out there.
Mhm.
Even when he's being villainous, he's way out there.
Yeah.
He's still trying to ham it up way too much, and it's just like, no, that's
I think the
detracting.
problem is people keep trying to copy the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor, which was the pre-crisis
No, I wouldn't want to do the
Lex
I
Luthor.
wouldn't want to do pre-crisis Lex Luthor. I would want the Lex Luthor from Superman the Animated Series.
Well, that's what
No, I
Tim
think
is
he's
saying
saying
is the
that's
problem.
what. Yeah, that's what the movie is mimicking.
No, it's not.
Again,
Because that Lex Luthor is still calm and in control, but he's Mr. CEO businessman, calm and in control. I mean, to
no,
be honest,
let me put it to you this way,
if
Randy.
this movie,
Randy, they're trying to recreate the pre stuff. They're trying to do like Golden Age Lex Luthor is what they're trying to do. In a dark,
oh God,
serious
please
movie,
no,
which is really stupid.
please no,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's why this is
Mhm.
going to be terrible.
Well, wait, maybe he'll pull out a green and purple mecha suit.
God damn
Well,
it.
even modern Lex Luthor has the green and purple mecha suit.
Yeah.
Oh, does he really?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's actually one of modern Luthor's weapons.
Last time I actually personally saw it was literally Crisis. So
No,
He's used it. They have it in the DC MMO. They have it in
Yeah,
Injustice.
got you.
It's all over the place. He uses it all the time lately.
Yep. In fact, this pre-crisis thing was actually a green and purple spandex suit with like cross bandoliers.
Yeah.
Seriously, watch the opening to Challenge of the Super Friends. That was pretty much his supervillain outfit.
Yeah, I have to say the mecha is at least an improvement,
Anyway.
but still, just this.
Yep.
There are
Anyway,
good things going into that
sorry.
movie, but there are too many bad things I'm not interested.
As we
Rand
mentioned,
is trying to move on to Doctor Who, and Matt
actually, I was
no.
trying to move on to one thing, but Matt keeps harping on it.
Oh,
Matt.
okay.
I just stopped. Yes.
Inhale, take a deep breath,
I waited
and
on
let
you.
it go. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this week is the first week of school for Bill and myself. Speaking for myself, I actually had my first class today. I am looking for basically what's probably going to be a very breezy next 16 weeks. Our teacher went over what we're doing this week, and I'm like, know it. Don't know it, but understand the concept of it. Know it. Okay, that'll be interesting. That was basically my course syllabus.
Yarg.
How about you, Bill?
I have one professor that seems to be fond of walls of text, so I'm studying. That's going to be interesting. He's for two of my courses. Then I have news writing, statistics, or whatever. It's a psychology class, but it's a statistics class. I forget the name of it. And then I have one other class that will start on Monday, and that one is probably just going to be fairly simple. It's a school-wide mandatory communication class, because I guess they want people graduating to know how to talk to people and get jobs
And not be idiots on the internet.
But yeah, definitely going to be some at least time-heavy stuff. I'm not going to say it's going to be the most difficult things in the world, but it's going to eat up a lot of time.
All right. So that's our school update, brief. which is good because the news was killing us. So let's move on to the 5-minute challenge. Can I talk today? 5-minute challenge.
I think you should do the 5-minute challenge, hun.
I did it last week. It's not my turn.
I'm good for this week.
What do you mean you're good for this week?
I can take it this week.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Stopwatch.
You could increase your bandwidth a little, Bill. You were breaking up a little when we were discussing your classes.
Oh.
I didn't notice them breaking up during the classes. I noticed them breaking up when we first started on Suicide Squad, though. Like, really bad. But anyway, I'm ready. Are you ready, Bill?
I'm ready. Just give me a countdown.
All right, start in 3, 2, 1, go.
The Doctor and Perry are about to land on Earth, and the Doctor detects a time machine of some sort nearby. It's so handy that the Doctor has had this ability every time he encountered the Master, the Monk, or other renegade Time Lords. They exit the TARDIS in the 19th century into a field overseen by a scarecrow with no birds to scare. The scarecrow also seems to slowly follow their motion as they walk across the field. The Doctor and Perry come across a group of people smashing machinery, the Luddite movement. They discover a meeting with George Stevenson taking place and make their way to the meeting. En route, we see that the Master and another disguised figure are watching the pair. The Master convinces a group of Luddites to try to kill the Doctor before they are frightened off by the owner of the estate, who explains that seemingly rational men have lately been acting completely savage and out of character. Meanwhile, the Master seeks out the other figure he saw watching the Doctor, a figure he recognizes named the Rani, a fellow exile from Gallifrey. The Rani reveals that she is harvesting the chemical that produces sleep from humans in order to combat a problem that is occurring on the world that she is ruler of. The Doctor goes undercover as a miner with bright yellow trousers. The Rani captures him, but upon discovering his dual heartbeat, she awakens him and he recognizes her. They trade barbs before the Doctor is restrained on a cart and sent rolling downhill for several minutes. He is saved by George Stevenson, who introduces the Doctor and Perry to his aide Luke. While Stevenson attempts to cancel the meeting due to the attempts on the Doctor's life and the expectation that they will attack others at the meeting, the Master begins to scheme to take control of the inventors at the meeting to take over the universe. As the Doctor finds the Rani's TARDIS and sabotages it, the Rani and the Master go off to do something or other. When the TARDIS begins to dematerialize, the Doctor orders Perry out. The Doctor overhears the Master and the Rani plotting to set a trap for him. The Rani has determined the Doctor is as much a threat to her as he is to the Master. Meanwhile, she continues to ignore any talk of the Master's scheme. The Doctor meets back up with Perry instead of following the Rani and the Master, and then meets back up with them after the fact, bypassing the minefield laid by the Rani. Luke wanders into the minefield, stepping on a mine and being transformed into a tree. Perry follows not long afterward, and Luke shows enough remaining humanity to protect her from stepping on a mine herself. The Doctor forces the Rani at TCE point to lead Perry out of the minefield before the Master and the Rani give him the slip. They escape from Earth, discovering that something is wrong with the TARDIS after they're already in the vortex, and for some reason the Doctor's tampering causes the Rani's dinosaur egg to hatch and start to grow up, yet Tremis's body doesn't age. The Doctor and Perry make it back to the TARDIS and take off for the next episode.
All right. Ooh, come on, stop. You did that in 2 minutes and 52 seconds thereabouts.
All right.
That's fairly short.
Yes, it is. Okay.
Message.
You did. I don't think you noticed one other thing in there. That the Master noted that he was going to keep it close to his hearts, both of them, implying that body's Time Lord now.
True. Yeah, actually, I recall thinking of that at one point. So maybe that's why he doesn't age.
Maybe.
Yeah, because the Rani wasn't aging either.
The Rani's always been in a Time Lord body.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the thing is that body has in particular been borrowed from Mortal. It's been questionable whether or not it's actually a Time Lord body or not.
But he actually does say both of his hearts, so
apparently his transformation into that form has made it into a Time Lord body.
Powers of the Keepership.
He did essentially, meld with that body.
Yeah.
technically, maybe he should have 3 hearts. And 2 brains and 4 eyes.
You can stop there, Aaron.
Cronenberg Master.
Would the 2 brains be arguing with each other? Would it technically be Cho'Gall?
Right.
Well, you know, the thing is, as a Time Lord, they actually kind of have more of a series of brains networked together, so, you know.
Like a worm?
Information.
And which of those brains had the drumming?
Yes, the drumming, that was never present in any plot line until Series 3.
Maybe it's
I was
actually...
completely forgotten after.
Yeah.
Maybe if he has 2 brains, they operate like bongos.
Well, no, it
That's
wasn't
smart.
forgotten immediately thereafter, because it was brought up and
Forgotten
given
after
us...
Series 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although, technically, there's a reason for that, as they actually solved what it was.
And caused that to regenerate into an old man.
Yeah. Screw you, Raslan. You were much more intimidating as Timothy Dalton.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
All
It would've
right.
been a much better season finale if it was Timothy Dalton, to be honest.
Yes, it would have. I would have much preferred to see Timothy Dalton back again. So badass, he just kicked the Master's ass and forced him to regenerate into a woman, and then went, "Yeah, I'm still in charge.
Yeah, I'm
Bite
still in
me."
charge. Fuck you, Master, and just walks off, not even caring.
So let's move on to our likes and dislikes. All right. So Matt, you're up. What
Likes
did
and
you
dis-
like in general about this episode?
I liked the cinematography of it. A lot of the filming locations, in particular, they had a large amount of actual on-location scenes that they could use.
Yes, they did. They actually were filming at a basically a historical village.
Yeah, essentially by the look of it. And then they also added a couple of new sets that they obviously had to make from scratch because they actually have an entirely new interior for the Rani's TARDIS.
Which was actually built on the existing TARDIS set.
Ah, so they had to redecorate the entire set then.
Well, I mean, it used the same set space as the TARDIS, but I'm pretty sure it had new wall panels and stuff.
It had new wall panels, it had new pillars, it had new center console for the most part, and the only thing that probably that could stay that didn't need moving is maybe the lights. But they had to add a couple of those too in order to get some of the other lighting that went on in the background.
Yeah, they initially had some problems with the central console making too much noise, but they fixed that. I did watch it behind the scenes.
Ah,
Rani probably didn't have the pool.
But you can imagine Anthony Ainley
sure
had to
she
be
had
about
pool.
seething when he saw that new TARDIS set. He's like, every time we see my TARDIS, it's just a recolored version of the Doctor's.
where's she got the big shiny thing in the middle?
Because apparently Ainley was very resentful because he really thought his role on the show was being usurped by the Rani.
Well, it doesn't help that the entire episode is taking the piss out of him.
Yeah, that does not help at all.
Yeah.
Like, he's pretty much a running joke for 2 episodes and then doesn't show up again until 89. No, that's not true. He shows up next season. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Moving on.
Wah, wah, wah.
Okay, so
I
Tim.
keep forgetting the Ultimate Foe because it's not a full-length Master serial.
Oh, the Master, though, shows up at the end of Terror of the Vervoids, I think.
Well,
A little bit.
the thing I really liked about this episode was the music. I like the score, just from the opening, like synthesizer notes and the whole.
Interesting note on that, Tim, was the fact that originally they had hired someone else to do the score for this episode. And he died while making it. So they had to recommission somebody else in a hurry. And they didn't let him hear the other person's score work because they didn't want him to either base all of his stuff on that or make it deliberately unlike it. So there's a little interesting tidbit for you. That score that you like almost didn't happen.
Wow. So what, they used the music of the guy who died?
No, they did not use his music. They They commissioned somebody else to make the score, a brand new score from scratch,
Oh.
They just didn't want him to copy the previous guy's work just in case.
or make it deliberately unlike the previous guy's work. They wanted him to do his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that works very well because it's very traditional English themed, with just a little bit of synth replacement, which is 80s.
Yeah.
All right, so Bill, how about you? What was your favorite thing overall?
Part of what I was going to say is a quote that when I'm looking it up, either I misheard or I'm thinking of a different episode. But either way, I thought the doctor had said something about not taking kindly to time meddlers, but either that's a different episode or I misheard it. But either way, I do like the kind of callbacks to the time meddler in this episode, both in the fact that it's an otherwise historical story, except for the renegade time lords. It's in some ways some reminiscent of the first Doctor era in being sort of edutainment. And yeah, if that quote was accurate, it would have been the cherry on top, but apparently it was not.
Yeah, I don't know where you got that because I don't recall that at all.
Mm-hmm. I think I recall Bill mentioning that he was watching Time Lash right after this episode.
It's possible it's there, yeah.
It's possible he grabbed it from Time Lash. But we'll find out that next week.
Well, that's why I was checking the transcript before saying it, and it does not appear in the transcript. So I'm going to say that I was remembering that quote wrong. But either way, it's still some nice parallels between this and the Time Meddler, which is a good way of introducing a new renegade Time Lord. That, and I always do appreciate when historical Doctor Who does include bits of edutainment in it without detracting from the story.
Yeah, I always liked it when they did purely historical pieces, but they don't do that much anymore. There's always an alien
history.
Yeah. I mean, they stopped doing that, I think, in the first or second Doctor era. Was it the Highlanders?
The Highlanders, although by all accounts it was more of a parody of the historicals than an actual historical, which would make the Gunfighters
also a parody of historical.
Yeah.
It was unintentionally a parody because the people thought they were getting facts when in fact they were just looking up Hollywood.
Well, no, they knew it was a Hollywood version. They knew it wasn't true.
Well,
they just
the writer
wanted the
might have known that it was, but BBC didn't know any better, and they suddenly went.
Last I heard, BBC wanted the Hollywood version. They didn't want the real version.
Yeah, I think that makes the massacre at St. Bartholomew's Eve, I think, was the last historical.
That might be it.
Although
yeah.
Black Orchid. Black Orchid.
Black Orchid in the Fifth Doctor era was the first historical in years at least, if not decades, and the last historical in decades, not counting Big Finish, because I think they've done one or two.
All right. So, Aaron, how about you?
I like how there's a little bit more action and suspense in this. It certainly isn't a boring watch at all, and it really kind of makes time fly when you're watching it. All the way, one of the most iconic scenes being the Doctor going downhill on the table, being strapped to the table. People just kind of what was it? I mean, the banter between the Master and the Rani, but also
I was waiting for the Power Rangers and Bulk and Skull to come and try and stop the Doctor from rolling downhill.
Bum 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 bum. Okay. I really loved the historical reference in here. I love the fact that there were actual historical figures. I mean, both George Stephenson and Lord Ravensworth are actual historical people.
They mentioned a few others on the list, although it would have been even nicer if they had included a few lines as to who they were. But
I knew a few of them by name.
Like with Faraday, creator of the Faraday
cage. Yeah.
That was the one that stood out to me as recognizing as well.
I knew at least one of the other ones too. But I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. But still, it was nice to actually be able to say, my name is Lord Ravensworth, Wiki Lord Ravensworth, and you actually come up with somebody. And
I don't think people do that anymore. They say Cortana. Who is Lord Ravensworth?
Or Siri.
Yeah.
I have Cortana.
Android needs to get some. Android needs to work out a deal with C-3PO.
Oh dear.
It's too bad. What's her name is dead. Majel Barrett Roddenberry. Because then you could have the voice of the Enterprise. And freaking fanboys would go nuts for that.
Yeah.
Computer, who is?
Yes. But then, then you might get real life versions of that scene from A Voyage Home when somebody picks up an old phone or an old computer, like, computer, what is computer? Why are you not responding?
Hello,
computer.
Hello, computer. Oh, a keyboard and a mouse. How quaint.
But you think about that. That was 1986.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we have that.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick up the frickin' handheld. You can pick up your pad and go, computer.
Hey, Cortana.
Yes. And it responds. So if you think about...
Although, if you call Siri
Cortana.
Cortana by accident, she gets mighty catty.
Hi, can I get something started for you?
Not right now, Cortana.
What happens if you call Cortana Siri?
Good question.
Ooh.
Either way,
We started a cat fight there.
just the fact that the fact that we can do that means the fact that Scotty really wasn't that far off. He only missed it by a couple of decades.
Just a couple. He's definitely not far off at all.
So yeah, I really liked the fact that you could do a search and actually see information on these people, and the location they were in was the actual location that George Stephenson did develop his steam engine. It is an actual real location. So all of that was kind of cool to me. All right, so what didn't you like with the episode, Matt?
Oh. At first, it really does kind of feel like, female master. Okay. Then she slowly starts to develop, but at first, it really felt like a female master. It took like the second episode before they really got what the Rani really was compared to the master.
I tend to disagree, largely because the entire time he's like, we should take over the universe, we should kill the Doctor. She's like, I don't give a shit about any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a shit about taking over the universe. I don't give a shit about killing the Doctor. I just want my frickin' fluid from these guys' brains. And that's kind of the difference between the Master and the Rani, is the Master lusts and craves for power and recognition. He has this guise, but underneath it all, he's a little boy going, "Look at me! Look at me!
Look what I can do."
Whereas she
Kill
is
my friend.
She is pure, cold, dispassionate science. The Master is chaotic evil. She is pure, true neutral.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the Doctor's lawful good. Although with
Lawful
some
good to chaotic good.
neutral good.
Neutral good, yeah.
He did, after all, steal a TARDIS, so.
Yeah. He's got a little bit of that little streak there once in a while.
Yeah, he tends to be more of a force for chaos than law.
No, if you think about it, not really. He is a force for order because he's taking these massively disruptive things and stopping them. He doesn't cause the chaos, he ends it.
Depends. Case in
I don't know
point, Daleks.
if you. I feel like he's toppled more governments than Kirk.
Not really.
He's fought more gods than Kirk.
The only time I remember him actively toppling a government is Christmas Invasion. He has overthrown a few evil dictators.
Tom Baker overthrew a government. I forget which one it was now. Sunmakers, maybe? I can't remember. It was during a stretch with Leela. I remember that much. But yeah, he's overthrown several governments. It's nothing new to the Doctor. It's a really corrupt government.
Either way, we
overthrow
weren't
them.
intending to get on a tangent about whether the Doctor is
Yeah,
chaos
'cause-
neutral or lawful.
Yeah. Nerds.
This is a podcast for nerds by nerds. We'll get on these tangents. At least this one was semi-topical.
Yep.
And not talking about Power Rangers or something else for half an hour. Okay.
Oh, but we can if we want to.
No. All right. So that was Matt. How about you, Tim? What did you not like about this episode?
I really didn't like the pacing in this episode. It seemed kind of like rushed in parts and too slow paced in other parts. Like especially like the scenes with the Rani.
Yeah,
Rani
at
in her
first the Rani
in her lab.
really doesn't want to be a part of it, and then it takes a while before she finally gets into it.
Yeah, it's like the Ronnie scenes were, if anything, a bit too brisk, and then there's a whole bunch of padding of multiple attempts on the Doctor's life so that we can get the episode out to 45 minutes. I think if this were done a couple seasons later, it would have been a 3-parter rather than a 4.
You mean rather than 2?
Well, I'm saying no, because when they reverted back to the 24-minute episodes, they started doing 3 and 4-parters.
Yeah,
Whereas
instead
this
of
is
the
the
4 and
equivalent of
6s.
This is the equivalent of a 4-parter, but I think it would have been a 3-parter if it were in the 7th Doctor era.
Okay.
You think they needed to expand it out a bit?
Well, I mean, they would have
He-
chopped.
No,
No,
would've
you
crossed
think
things
they
out if they
needed
would've-
to. They had 3 episodes script. They needed to pad it out to 4, and then of course,
Oh,
because
yeah,
of the way
yeah.
the season wound up being, it got made into 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
245s.
I wonder if the rushed parts, depending on where you're thinking of, I'm wondering if that was specifically to get the cliffhanger to that episode 1 ending.
Well, I know some of the rewrites were done in a hurry, because
surprised.
that location that they filmed in was originally booked for another series, and they had to cancel. So literally, the BBC said, "Hey guys, does anybody want a free film crew?" And John Nathan Turner said, "Yes, please." And they called Pip and Jane and said, "Okay, you now have about 3 days to do this."
Mining
Yeah.
operations. Figure it
And-
out.
And because
now I know a lot of scripts for this season were also written as longer, as being set for 4 episodes or or whatever, as the 5th Doctor's era would have been, and then they'd be like, no, actually we're doing in 2 45-minute episodes.
that makes no difference.
I can't
That
help
makes
but to
no
know-
difference, Bill.
It makes a difference where the cliffhangers go.
No, it doesn't, because your cliffhanger's still at the end of what would have been episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
At the best, you have to play down the cliffhanger that would have been between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4,
Right.
but you don't need to completely omit it. But another thing was that there were some taking issues at filming. It rained, so all for episode 2, all the Redfern Dell scenes had to be delayed till the week after.
See, now, if this was
And
a 10th
filmed
Doctor
at
era,
a
they just would have
second
filmed the
location.
crying scene, but I guess the 6th Doctor doesn't really have those.
But they had to film a week later and in a different location, and because of that, their studio time was cut from 4 days till 3. So
They forgot what it was. Damn it.
their studio scenes were also shot in a hurry.
Oh. It seems to me that John Nathan Turner did suffer a lot from last minute idea bombs when it came to his writers for this show. So
Well,
somehow last minute changes don't surprise me.
that the last minute change for a set. I mean, if I was a producer, I would have done the same thing there. You just saved yourself a boatload of money by getting a free film crew for a week on the site that you were going to film on. Yes, it means you need to film there a few days early, but you're going to save money in the long run. The downside of that was it's raining, and any on-location shoot is going to have rain issues. Is going to have weather issues. Weather is never your friend when filming on location. Ask George Miller.
He's, of course, referring to the George Miller event when he was trying to film Fury Road, and all of a sudden the place he had first picked out was suddenly lush and green and full of life when about 2 weeks prior it was a desert.
He had a perfect location in Eastern Australia. A week before he was supposed to film there, they had their first rain in 30 years. So he goes to film this sandy, barren wasteland, and he has flowers and, you know.
He just walks in and it's a circle of life, and he just goes, oh, no.
So he waits a month thinking, yeah, it'll just die out soon and everything, and it didn't.
It continued to be circle of life, and he's just sitting there going, dang it.
So he has to go clear out to Western Africa to find a suitable location, and then CGI in some landmarks from the area. It cost him a lot more in production value because of a simple rainfall. So when you are filming on location, weather is never your friend, because you can never predict with any accuracy what it will do when you go to film there. Okay. So,
Is it me?
yes, it's you.
I'm going to say that even though I liked the history, it did not mesh with the biology. And that is saying that the fluid that causes sleep has no parallel in human biology, and it might have worked on it with an alien species, but it does not belong here.
Actually, Bill, I'm going to countermand you by reminding you that this was made in 1985. And that was actual button news at the time, is that scientists were looking for a chemical that causes humans to sleep.
And that's actually something I was wondering.
That was actually where Pip and Jane Baker got the idea, is they kept seeing the news about scientists researching this, and that's where they got the whole idea for the episode from.
Turns out it doesn't exist, but...
It turns out it didn't exist, but it was news at the time.
Particularly what tipped me off to that idea, and I'm trying to find a year for the research on this, but the fact that the effects of sleep deprivation are nothing like what they described as the alleged effects of the removal of this chemical.
I don't know.
That too.
I lose enough sleep, I could start hallucinating, and then I'd be pretty violent. But again, though, at the time, there was absolutely no data because scientists had just begun to theorize this, and it turns out that theorize was an error. So this was speculative science fiction.
Sadly, speculative tends to come out wrong in the end about 50% of the time, so... Oops. Apparently,
Sadly, all the articles that I'm finding are only listing the symptoms of sleep deprivation without actually listing when the research took place. So I'm not going to be able to comment in more detail on that without doing some research that we don't have time for me to do.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, what was your least favorite thing? And I can guess here, but I'll let you say it.
Yeah, I actually kind of didn't like Perry in this episode that much. I mean, it's kind of basically why I don't really like her as a companion. She's always a little bit too whiny for me, unfortunately. I don't think Nicole O'Brien is a bad actress or anything like that. I just didn't like the character that she was playing. At least not in this serial.
Dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just seemed to be a little too helpless.
Honestly, the combination of the Doctor's dialogue and Perry's dialogue makes it come off as an abusive relationship.
Yeah, that kind of makes me feel uncomfortable too about that. It's just like, And there's definitely a scene that I know that I don't like in this. But yeah, I think Ran was expecting me to point out her clothes too, which were.
I was actually going to mention that too.
Yeah, I've actually asked Sarah Bloy from the Madison Area Costuming Society about how accurate they were, and she's like, "Well,
Name
they're
dropper.
not." Huh?
I said name dropper.
No,
Name
this is an actual
dropper.
friend of ours.
Yes.
Yeah, it's.
I know. I was just joking about her mentioning the costuming society. I'm
Yes.
joking though.
Well, just it came from a fairly credible source. Anyway,
You know, it was
At least
from
two
a queen
sources.
that I knew from the Victorian era.
You
Anyway.
could have just said our costuming maven from GeekCon.
Yeah. Anyway, someone who should know something about historical costuming and how to build those types of dresses, because they do kind of have to be built rather than just sewn. But yeah, she said that it wasn't quite accurate. Like the waist and the skirt was too short and it wasn't full enough, and the neckline was very strange. Like it didn't quite go for it wasn't really 1840s or maybe even 1850s.
Which actually is a little interesting when you realize if anyone should be able to pull off that kind of period costume, it's the BBC.
I know.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should.
But they might not have had the budget for the dress.
That's kind of what. Well, I actually said a couple of things about this to Aaron. One of which is, yes, they made the skirt too high because they were on a budget, so they only had one or two of those costumes, and a couple of those scenes were being filmed on a slag pile.
Yeah.
So they hiked up the skirt a couple inches so it wasn't dragging in the slag and getting dirty.
So it was more for practical effect than it was for historical accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Although
But then-
that one scene with the minefield, if the skirt was as long as it should have been, she would not have been able to pull off that jump without landing on her face.
That was
Yeah.
another reason.
Again,
Being
practical.
able to do stunts.
Again, practical, but also I would add that why did they pick those particular colors?
Actually, Aaron and I
She-
did a little research on that.
Mm,
That yellow was actually a common color of the time.
Ouch.
Because calico yellow had just come out in that era, and it ranged in color from more of a golden to an even brighter yellow than that. So
Yeah, but keep
That,
in
and
mind,
if you spend months traveling with the Sixth Doctor's coat, your fashion sense might not be all intact at the end.
Yeah, as
Looks like
someone
a Disney
replied,
princess.
to me later, is that she's more historically accurate than the Doctor's garb.
yeah,
True.
but then again, the Doctor never seems to have that problem walking through any place with World War II U-boat captain
Although
and only getting a couple of snide
of-
comments.
one thing I mentioned of the Doctor in the summary, one image that I saw pointed out. What's the big thing you notice that's very very poorly advised about the Doctor's costume? Bright yellow trousers
Mhm.
when he's pretending to be a miner.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I
Yeah.
think he still had those horrific orange spats.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
God.
Yep. He kept those spats on too. So.
All he took off was the coat.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Yay, I get to put on a coat. Now put this on." Aww.
Yeah, I get to put on a different coat and now rub all this charcoal over your face.
Oh, there's a funny story about that.
Oh.
Yeah, so they go out to do practice. The BBC guy comes out with basically BBC dirt, which is a touch of dirt and, mostly like this makeup powder and stuff.
He's got a jar of dirt.
And so they have him try that for practice. It works fine. And then it's lunch break and they go to lunch. During the lunch break, the dog that they got to play the guard dog in the earlier scene
Mm-hmm.
sees the jar of BBC dirt and goes, "What a great place to take a dump in." So
Oh
they come
my.
back from break and they redo the scene where the Doctor puts the stuff on his face, puts it up, and he goes, "Ah!" And they're just like, "Hold that, hold." And they have him freeze while they try to do the pan shot to know where they were with this. And he's like, "Hurry, I've got poo on my face." Turns out they were completely pulling his leg on the 5, but they had him hold for 5 minutes with dog shit on his face.
God damn it. Yeah, I'm looking at a picture, by the way, of him with the charcoal over his face. He just does not look thrilled anymore.
Well, it loses its allure after you've put on a big steaming pile of dog crap.
God damn it, dog. I bet you right about then he was actually happy that the dog gets killed.
But they didn't really kill the dog.
So, yeah. Also, here's actually another question I have really quickly before you go into your worst, Randy. Was he actually still using the shrink ray of the Master? Or was he using something else?
No, that was still the tissue compression eliminator. He's been using it since the 5th Doctor's beginning. It's the same prop that
It is the same prop. Okay, I was wondering because I also saw a little wear and tear on it.
Yeah, it's the same prop that he used in Castrovalva and onward. It's not the same one that he had in Legopolis, mind you. Because that one looked more like a box.
Yeah.
But it was the one that he did use in Castrovalva, and every time you met the Master onwards, it was the same prop. It basically was a long cylindrical tube with this big bulby blob on the end, and anytime he had to use it in there, everybody but Anthony Ainley kept cracking up on the set because it was rather phallic looking.
I assume, yes. But also the
tissue
thing
compression dildo.
I had to ask because despite the fact that he obviously was killing people with it, I did not see any miniatures or any attempt to make miniatures.
No, yeah, me neither. I was looking for them too.
Yeah, they didn't actually use the miniatures. They just kind of shrank and dissolved, but you didn't actually see them shrink. They just
you
floated.
didn't even see the shrink. You just saw them dissolve.
Yeah, but
it might as well have been a ray gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which was kind of minorly disappointing. Anyway.
It would have taken more time in a plot that already was getting padded out too far. If they'd just shown one of them, it would have been better.
If they would have just shown one or two of them or something, yeah.
Like the little dog or something.
Mm-hmm.
The little dead dog. And then the next time you see it, you just see them.
It's a trail of breadcrumbs that the Doctor knows that the Master's there without stopping and talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would have been actually a dead giveaway for the Doctor to act on what he was thinking, too. Anyway, I believe it's up to Randy's turn for...
Yeah, and actually that's a good segue into my thing that I liked the least, which was the special effects in this episode.
Yeah.
The one that really stands out in my mind is Tree Luke. That tree looks like it belongs on Puppet Theater.
Looks like it doesn't help that the one...
It doesn't help that the one branch seems to be in just the right spot for large portions of the internet to be convinced that it's not supposed to be his hand, but a different appendage reaching out for Perry's chest.
Well, yeah, if you think of proportions.
Exactly.
But still, I mean, it literally looks like it should be on Muppet Theater and not on Doctor Who.
Yeah,
because it was obviously fake.
Mm-hmm. I can only think of one good effect, which was the exploding volcano thing.
That was decent.
Yeah, that was the only thing I can think of, and it's
the
actually a scene I've seen
wasn't
before, too.
Terrible for Doctor Who standards.
For Doctor Who standards, I did actually mention to Aaron, compared to the last time they did dinosaurs, that was so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, the dinosaur was a little bit better than last time, but
that's not a high mark. Perfect.
No, it was still pretty bad.
That's still.
But that one was at least 80s passable. The tree was not 80s passable.
Yeah. Neither of the trees. Although the effect of them becoming a tree was decent, but the actual trees themselves, you could actually see them wobble, so...
I just don't... if she can turn them into trees, can't she turn them back?
Probably she never researched it. It would take her too
she probably
long
didn't
for one,
it.
she'd have to be motivated to do so. Two, I mean, a tree is a simpler, cellularly, it's a simpler life form than an animal, so it's entirely possible that the answer to that is no.
Mm-hmm.
She may have the ability, but she doesn't have the inclination.
And
What if she was able to turn them back into animal matter, but the animal matter retained the form of a tree, so you would have a fleshy tree.
So tree people.
stop
people.
stop going Cronenberg, Aaron.
But it's so easy to do.
Yes, I know, but please, I have to deal with enough body horror in my Monday night game. So
What are you doing in your Monday night game?
we're playing Eclipse Phase. But there's this thing, this nanovirus which messes with bodies.
Masters of bodies.
Yeah.
See, I hear messes with bodies, and I also hear tentacle rape.
No, there was no tentacle rape implied.
Okay.
So
No, I
don't-
think he means much more squickier things.
Ah, melting bodies.
kind of bodies that have become one with a wall and
Duke
are
Nukem,
still
kill me.
alive. What?
Duke Nukem, kill me.
Anyway, we are way off topic here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think we're about to go on to Matt's favorite scene.
yes, favorite scene in the 2 episodes.
Oh, favorite scene. I like actually a really good scene for everyone involved was actually the scene where Perry had the Master and the Rani in the mine, and she was actually pre-warned by the Doctor during one of their better scenes, by the way, in this particular story, that obviously the Master was going to try and hypnotize her and to be ready for that. And so she completely 180'd the Master's attempt on her, and she says, like, yeah, you just sit back, and otherwise you're going to get a little bit of what you kind of deserve today. And then the Rani is the one that has to actually pull out a trick.
Yeah, at the same time, it was more making the Master look like an absolute fool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also something that's been
But
proven to
then
happen
again,
before.
Considering how campy this Master
Is that the last time? Oh no, I was going to say, is that the last time the Master tries to hypnotize someone, but he does in the TV movie?
Yep.
No, he does it like several times in the TV movie, so no, it's not the last
Yeah.
time.
Though it'd be nice to see Missy do that. I'd really like to see Missy hypnotize.
I mean, yeah, she'd probably have
If we bring back
some
Missy again, yeah.
ridiculous jingle to go with it, but I'd be
Ridiculous
okay with that.
jingle or seductive voice. I'm not sure which. Either way, it would be something that's similar to what the Master does, yet uniquely Missy.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
I would just enjoy. I am Missy, and you will obey me. That would be enough for me, man.
I am the mistress, and you will do as I say.
that could work too.
Okay, Tim, your favorite scene.
My favorite scene was the one where Perry meets the Doctor again after he disappeared in the TARDIS, and she's moping, and he says like, "Huh, I was almost stuck in the 19th century forever." Because I really like the "well, where have you been" vibe.
And as usual, the Doctor's like, "I'll explain later."
I'll explain later.
Because it just shows that this is probably a regular occurrence in their adventures. That the Doctor goes off somewhere, leaving her stranded for the time being. So it's like
That's a regular occurrence in his adventures, period.
Yeah.
But just her reaction is like, "Oh, Doctor, thank God you're here. I was almost trapped." It's like, huh. It's like,
And then she leaves the TARDIS by him going off and leaving her stranded.
Yeah. Although it wasn't really his fault.
It wasn't his fault, yeah.
But then again, it frequently isn't his fault. Anyway, Bill, your favorite scene.
I think I'm going to go with once you know who is watching the Doctor, rewatching that Scarecrow scene, and you realize how much effort the Master must have gone through to become that Scarecrow, just so he could be a voyeur, and it's just hilarious to think about.
I'm watching you,
Master
Doctor.
Wahentai. Yeah.
I'm watching your every move, Doctor.
Like
You
I
see?
think I saw one article pointing
That
out
would
like,
have been a
he must-
better opening
he must
bump,
have
Matt.
showed up. He must have showed up, at least an hour in advance, like cleared out the field of birds, stripped down the Scarecrow, put the Scarecrow's clothes on, strapped himself up.
Actually, what
See-
would be hilarious is actually watching the Master tied up to the stake still and making the stake hop across the field as he keeps watching them.
That
pretending to
would
be
have crossed
stationary
that
again.
would have crossed the line into outright straight up comedy.
Well, that's
No.
typical of this campy Master. So
That would have been a great opening bump. Was having that scene where the Master is watching the Doctor as a Scarecrow to "I'll be watching you every move you make."
Yes.
actually, there's a couple of scenes we could have used for that too.
Somebody's watching me.
See, when I saw that scene, I was reminded of a Family of Blood.
That
There's-
might be where they got the Scarecrow idea from Family of Blood.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
I'm trying to remember if the Scarecrows were in the original book. I don't recall them, but they might have gotten the idea for the Scarecrows from that, or that it was just a level of parallel thought.
Yeah, either is very plausible.
I mean, scarecrows have been somewhat common in horror since probably something like Sleepy Hollow or whatever. But
Bill the Scarecrow, Batman comics,
right?
probably one of the more horrific Scarecrows that's been out there.
Well,
I'm just saying it's a theme that's been used in a lot of things since
time immemorial.
for a long time.
Since as long as there's been Scarecrows, probably because they
Probably.
creep some people out.
Yeah.
As long as
Well,
anything
yeah, they
crows
were
to
the
scare.
original. They were the original Uncanny Valley.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aaron, your favorite scene?
The Doctor doing the luge down the hill there.
That was actually, by the way, done live with the Doctor on the trolley. There was no body substitute stuntman or anything. But he was not in as much danger as the poor BBC cameraman who was under the trolley, a few inches off the ground, trying to control a camera on a sidebar with one hand and trying to control the trolley with a stick in the other.
My problem with that scene is, one, the fact that it goes on so long, and two, like, he never seems to be plummeting toward a cliff. Like, he never seems, he's just going for a fun ride. He never seems to actually be
I
in
know,
any
that's why I
danger.
love it. I'm just like, hey, can't you just relax and have fun?
I mean, other than a brief bit of the Luddites beating on him for a short time, but he's
and then
got
sending
padding.
him to
Yeah.
the death pit at the end, but
Yeah, David Tennant's manacled trip down the stairs at End of Time Part 2, I think, was at least a little more dangerous / fun. Worst rescue ever? The one that he did right after having back surgery?
Yeah.
All right, so my favorite scene.
Come on, nose.
I think my favorite scene in the entire bit is just the bit between is actually when George Stevenson rescues the Doctor and actually spends time fascinated over the metal on the manacle, because they actually get him right, which is kind of
Very
cool.
fascinated by the marksmanship.
Metal, and you hear these people that are talking, southeast or southwest England, West or Welshish accent, and then you've got him with this northern brogue, and it's just absolutely beautiful. I just like it. So, scene that you don't like, Matt.
Oh, one that I didn't like. Trying to think of anyone in particular. Well, I think the one that instantly made me kind of go, "Oh, that was disappointing," was the double death by the master, where he killed the dog and then killed the guard. Because again, very meh effect that we did get of them dissolving to begin with, and then no follow up with the fact that they're supposed to be shrunken and laying in the middle of the pathway.
Okay. We kind of covered that one, so
Kind
Tim.
of partially covered, but yeah, that was the first thing that really broke it for me.
So Tim, your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene was the scene where the master looks at the Nick and says, "The mark of the Rani." Now, normally I'm
He does
all
that
for
twice.
Yes, he does.
He does that 3
And
times.
once after watching the Rani pull the trigger.
You know, normally I'm all for a title drop, but I don't think this was done very well.
Yeah, they hammered it in like 2-3 times. So.
Yeah, okay, there's the
Sure.
title of the show. We can go home now.
Thanks, Emily. We're going.
Yeah,
If he had only done it once, I would have been okay with it. But then he had to do it again.
in the second, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, please, we didn't need it twice. Yeah.
Oh, so that's what cereal we're in. Okay.
And he says it at though you have to admit, he says it with almost beautiful levels of cheese.
Yeah.
The mark of the Rani.
The Rani.
Anything else, you cannot criticize his performance in here because he was at this point he embodies the role.
The thing
He is this master as much as Roger Delgado is his master.
the thing is, Anthony Ainley was independently wealthy.
Ah,
He did not need to act. And the only role he was really interested in doing at this point is the master.
I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that he never came back to Big Finish.
Possibly. It's possible that he finally managed to separate himself from the role. But as others mentioned it, he actually considered it the master's show, and the doctor just happened to waltz in every now and again. So he literally embodied this. This was, what he did.
I would also add that. Wait, I just lost it now. What? Dang it.
Don't know what you want, Matt.
I was just gonna add something, and now I just completely spaced on what I was just about to say. God damn it! It's like the second
Matt's
time
brain.
tonight now.
Matt's brain, why you no work no more?
Continue on while my brain resets.
Yeah,
God
Colin
damn it,
Baker.
I have something that it just disappears on me tonight.
Yeah, in the commentary, Colin Baker and Kate Amara both said he only ever wanted to play the master. And Colin Baker said that he could afford it because he had built up a private income by the mid-1980s and then inherited a considerable sum of money from his father. So he kind of just loved the role. And he was great for the times, perfectly cheesy. But I don't think he would be good now.
Yeah.
So Bill, what was your least favorite scene?
I was actually going to go with a different scene, but I feel like I have to go with the scene where it seems like I think the Rani removed Perry's brain before she wandered into that minefield, because she then spends the entire scene, I don't understand, following her footsteps, and then proceeds to put her foot everywhere the Rani didn't. And she's just, I don't know, just so, like, I don't know how many times she says, I don't understand, but it's too many. I would have pushed her back into the minefield. Like, I don't have patience for that.
All right.
I'd have been like, you need to be a tree now.
Your acting's just so wooden.
Aaron, how about you?
My least favorite scene?
Mm-hmm.
The malfunctioning scene. The
It's-
one where the doctor just is talking to Perry. There's something going wrong with the TARDIS. They're not materializing where they need to be. the controls are being overridden or something. Well, he points that out later. But she's like, is it malfunctioning? And he's like, malfunctioning? He's just like sitting there screaming at the top of his lungs at her.
Yeah.
It's just like, I thought he had stabilized by now. It's just, yeah.
It's get on with it, get over it. You need to get over they really pushed this whole unstable regeneration thing way too far.
Yeah.
I mean,
it makes it look, this is an abusive relationship.
I think Perry stayed with them only because her relationship with the Fifth Doctor for all of 2 serials was much better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you follow Big Finish, they were actually a companion together for much longer. So the only reason she'd stay with him is out of loyalty for that who that person was. But really, I mean, so the twin dilemma, unstable regeneration, fine. Attack of the Cybermen, okay, you're pushing it, but fine. Vengeance on Veros, really, you need to get over it. Mark of the Rani, please get the fuck over it, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that was part of why my original worst scene was going to be the fact where they ask, what are you doing there? Arguing. I'm like, yes, thank you for reminding me that it's season 22 and every single episode needs to start with some stupid argument because that's all you do this season.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in the face of the fact that we also had a few moments where the Doctor actually shows some general care for Perry and actually manages to turn the enemy's weapons against them and forces them to actually help him save her.
Yeah.
It just does not work. It's time to move on past the whole I'm unstable thing.
Yeah, it really is. It's well past. All right. So my least favorite scene is any scene with Luke post-hypnosis. Because, I'm sorry, to make it any more obvious, he would have to be eating flies and going, yes, master, or yes, mistress.
Well, I think he quickly goes from hypnosis to larva, so at that point, like, they're zombies without any sort of thought in their actual head. Other than whatever they're told to think.
Which makes them absolutely useless for being a duplicitous undercover agent, because he is so... I mean, the fact that nobody else is noticing that something's very wrong with Luke.
The fact that he's gone very monotone, the fact that he's just kind of looking at them with glassy eyes, and also the fact that he at one point even very clearly leans down to grab a possible weapon, only to eventually let go as the conversation is ending.
Yeah, obviously, it was too obvious. For what they wanted Luke to do, it was too obvious that he was under mind control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you see why the Doctor managed to pick it out so easily.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely was not under Delgado mind control.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, why did he need to use a device to help him hypnotize people? That bothered me.
I think it was mostly to reinforce... You mean, why did he use the maggot?
No, he used... I forget what it was. Like, if it was a pocket watch or a yo-yo or something.
He had like a
something
little metal circle
that swung back and forth. And I'm like, the Master doesn't need that. The
I think the Delgado Master does because he doesn't have... Or, excuse me, I think the Ainley Master does because he doesn't have the piercing eyes of the Delgado Master.
Yeah.
The Delgado Master didn't need it because his eyes could hypnotize you alone. But
Delgado's more like Dracula. This one's more of a, I'll twirl this little shiny thing in front of you, then you will be.
I'm sorry. Yes, Delgado's more like Dracula. Ainley's more like Snidely Whiplash. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
Mustache twirling evil. He just doesn't have the eyes to hypnotize people.
He has the ability to hypnotize, but he doesn't have the same exact form of the hypnotism.
Yeah, he doesn't have the presence for it.
In part, yes.
The fact that he's gone partially insane at this point and has gone from rule the universe to kill the Doctor.
Kill the Doctor.
Because yes, all of Ainley's plots were about power, and killing the Doctor only became part of it if the Doctor started interfering. And then Ainley comes over, and like every other episode is an elaborate death trap for the Doctor with no other benefit than killing the Doctor.
Although even then, at this point, he still has a little bit of the Delgado chess player in him, because he could have just killed the Doctor. He could have TCE'd the Doctor as soon as he stepped out of the TARDIS. But instead, he wanted to stalk him and send Luddites after him. And
it's Joker logic. I could just pull out my gun and shoot the Batman, but where's the fun in that? Instead, I have to make the completely twisted logic, elaborate death plan, which the Batman will of course foul up and wind up sending me back to Arkham. But I have to do it because that's the way it's done. Isn't that right, Harley?
I think you've been playing too much Arkham Asylum, hun.
Nah, I would have done that anyway, because I've always said that about the Ainley Master, is that the death traps are just, he's very kill the Doctor obsessed, to the point of it being absolutely crazy. And this one is the first time you actually see him have a secondary goal, but the goal of taking industrial revolutionary minds and using them to take over the universe, I think is a bit over the top.
Just a wee bit of a stretch.
I really think by this point the Master has actually snapped his cord.
As you've stated before on the show, I think he got a bit of the taste of that Tom Baker blood and went, yes, more.
Yes. I think he got addicted to Doctor killing.
Has he appeared again since the 5 Doctors at this point, or is that his most recent appearance?
He appeared.
Oh no, I think he appeared. Oh no, that's right. That's right. I still need to watch Planet of Fire. I forgot.
Yes, Planet of Fire was his appearance prior to this. So all the stuff about him dying was Planet of Fire, where they thought he had burnt to a crisp.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot they mentioned that as well. Yeah.
That's why he's also kill the Perry. Because you could have saved me, but you didn't. So now you're part of my evil plan to kill the Doctor and the Perry.
I ought to set you on fire.
You're now Robin to my kill the Batman. Oh, God. It was just such mustache twirling camp.
Saying that, I kind of want, like in the Harley vein, the Master to have a real companion, because the Rani is definitely not the Master's companion. He gets a wife at one point, but her job is mainly to shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the Master or Missy with an actual, sidekick.
Well, we actually did see that very slightly with Clara.
True, but she was, they were at odds. Like, I want someone who, the right away, Mr. J. Except, obviously, not Mr. J,
M.
but...
Right away, Miss M.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if I could take it.
Just for an episode or two.
That would actually probably cause me to beat my head against the wall.
Although one of the ideas that I had, if I ever wrote a season of Doctor Who, would be where the Master kind of takes someone on as a companion and shows them, the unintended consequences of the Doctor's actions, and convinces them the Doctor is this horrible genocidal monster, and brings that companion to try to make them kill the Doctor.
I'm still waiting for Adric to show up as the Jason Todd of the series.
We really are making the Batman equation.
Yeah, a little bit. And with that, have we gotten to everyone's favorite scene? So we need your final thought soon.
We just lost Tim.
Yep.
I haven't heard Tim for a while.
Yeah, we physically just lost him on the call.
Don't.
And every time I try to call him, it gives him a busy signal.
I think he might be crashed. Maybe.
Well, he's aware he lost a call. He's able to text. Oh, wait,
I'm calling him now. It's still coming in busy.
Yeah.
All right. So final thoughts. We'll get to Tim when I can get him back on. Matt.
Final thoughts. Some of the writing is still a little bit wonky, and the pacing could use a tweak or two. Mostly cut some unneeded filler. Otherwise, the cinematography is pretty decent. The effects need a definite upgrade, even for their time. But the overall writing, for the most part, is actually pretty solid, and it's an enjoyable little romp, if nothing else.
All right. Bill.
I wanted to really like this episode with the introduction of the Rani and featuring the Master, and I think Tim's back.
I'm back.
Instead, I ended up liking some parts of the episode, disliking others. It kind of evens out in the middle. It's still a fitting introduction to the character of the Rani, and I kind of wish we had gotten to see her more than 2.5 times in total as Kate O'Mara being the Rani.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a. I would love to see the Rani come back with another actress in more than just Big Finish.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, she is part of the Doctor Who legend, so it would be nice to see her again, especially now that Gallifrey's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that Gallifrey's back in particular, there's no reason not to bring her back too.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten Rassilon back. We've gotten the Ice Warriors back. We can get the Rani back.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tim, did you have final thoughts?
I had final thoughts. The last thoughts I will ever have. No. I'm going to have thoughts after this. And my thoughts were, I really couldn't get into this episode. It just didn't mesh for me. It was like the pacing was off. I was never clear on just what the Master was trying to do.
He was trying to kill the Doctor and then trying to take power with Industrial Revolution scientists. Again, I think he's off his gourd.
Yeah, it was, but I was never clear, like, just how he planned to do that with.
Like I said, I really think he's off his gourd.
Yep.
He was trying to do a more poorly conceived version of the plan that the Rani has next time we see her.
Yeah.
Right. But this was the first time I've seen Anthony Ainley.
Really?
Yes.
I could have sworn we had other stuff with Anthony Ainley with you.
You weren't there when we did like Castrovalva?
No, I wasn't there for Castrovalva.
Huh.
Oh no, yeah, we did that back in season 2 of the podcast. So.
Oh, wow.
And we still need to do Survival and quite a few other stories.
Yeah, wow, that was just.
Actually, next time we see Ainley is when we do Trial of a Time Lord.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if this was the best episode for me to be introduced.
Probably.
Well, now you know all the tropes to do with him.
True.
Giant dressing up box to him.
Have we done Tracking yet?
We have not. I still have not seen it.
Okay.
We had that one on VHS. Wow.
I've seen it.
So is that all you... All right, go ahead, Tim.
It also seemed like there were a bunch of unresolved plot threads. Like the Doctor and Perry just leave. I mean, yes, the Master and Ronnie have been taken care of with their dinosaur. But what about the trees? Won't someone think of the trees?
There's not really anything they can do about them.
I am the Lorax. I speak for Luke.
Yeah.
All right. Aaron?
Or maybe he grows up into the great ancestor of that chick from
The Forest
End
of
the World.
Cheam.
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron.
Becomes an ent.
This one I remember being shown on PBS, so I have seen it before. It is kind of middle of the road for me. I don't really super enjoy it, but I do remember a lot of scenes from it, so it is at least memorable. But yeah, it's kind of an average episode. Like Matt said, the effects aren't all that great, and the writing feels a little bit uneven. The Master especially kind of comes off as a little bit childish, playing keep away with some of the Rani's stuff. He manages to steal from her 3 times in one episode, so it kind of, I don't know, makes him look childish, and it makes her kind of look like a dupe, to be honest. It's just like, how are these people, able to commit such destruction when they're so busy fighting amongst each other? But yeah.
And avoid the Time Lords at every corner.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yarr.
All right, so that's my opinion.
I
Okay.
was gonna say that. Takes it to Randy.
It's interesting because this one is usually rated as one of the higher episodes in this particular series. However, it is one of those episodes that that people tend to either love or hate. So it's interesting that you all are kind of meh about it.
That seems to be the case with a lot. Everyone either loves or hate it. Well, we neither love nor hate it.
For me, I really like the historical aspects of this. I do think that the special effects are dated and were even dated when they came out. But the acting, I still think, is great. The directing is fairly well. The writing is so-so, but overall, I really think this one has more good than bad. So now we're getting down to ratings. Matt, you're first.
Oh. Yeah, I've been trying to conflict in my head which one I'm going to go with. It's either going to be a 3.5 or a 3.4, or just a 4 flat. I want to argue for a 4, but I really can't find it in me to rate it quite that high. Oh, man. So yeah,
Your
I'm gonna
last
have
two ratings were a 4, so...
Yeah, I have to give this one a 3.5.
All right.
I can't rate it quite as high as the previous ones. Don't get me wrong, there's some very good points in this, but there's also just as many really poor ones for the most part, too.
Bill?
If we assume that the research was not there and that they could not have done better for the biology, I can give this a 3.5.
Okay.
If that's disproven down the line, I'll have to revert my score to a 3.
According to their interview, that was what was in the news at the time, is that they were researching it, but they hadn't actually found anything. And that was direct words from Pip and Jane Baker. So
they had heard about it, but they didn't realize that it had not actually been found out yet.
Well, no, they had heard the news that they were looking for it.
Yeah.
They found out it didn't exist until after they had written the episode. In other words, scientists. Yeah, at that point, it wasn't that the scientists were still looking for it when they wrote it. Still, they could have done a little more research on what the side effects of lack of sleep does, but still. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Tim, you're up.
This was a really just unengaging for me, middle of the road, so I'm going to give this a 3.
All right. Aaron?
I'm going to give this a 3.5, mostly for the action sequences.
All right.
Lightened it up.
I really like the period stuff, so I'm actually going to give it a 4. And that will average out for a 3.5 by the panel.
So just above average.
Yeah.
Just above. We didn't hate it, but we didn't exactly like it as much as we would have wanted to.
All right, and that puts it in the rankings. Da-da-da-da. Do I really need to do the da-da-da-da? With a 3.5, that puts it at number 80 on our list.
How does it compare to Time and the Rani?
Where is Time and the Rani on the list? Actually, let me check the master sheet first, because I know where it is on the master sheet. Let's see. Time in the Rani rated a 2.65.
So it's much higher.
Let's see. Mark of the Rani came in at 80. Time in the Rani at 2.7 came in at number 120. So there is a 40 slot difference.
That's a significant difference.
Yeah, considering there's only 138 total episodes. So this still came out better than Mark of the Rani, which was not very well liked by the people that reviewed it. And it is.
Although if Perry screamed like Mel, that might have dropped this episode about halfway down that gap.
I was about to bring that up. Anyway, that about does it for our review of the Mark of the Rani.
Yep. If you like listening to us, please like our videos on YouTube, and you can always subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixcloud. You can also follow us for news and updates on Facebook and Twitter. And if you feel the urge to support us, head on over to patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast.
All right. And tune in next week as we are going to, I believe, conclude our season 22 run with Time Lash by Glenn McCoy, and of course with Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant. I'm not looking forward to that.
Oh my!
That one mentions the name of the episode more than this one.
This one I remember seeing in middle school and not liking.
I've got Time Lash.
Let's do the time. Let's not do the time warp and say that we did.
No, sorry, we have to review it.
Can we time warp past when we were supposed to review it and therefore cancel it? Please, pretty please, with sugar on top.
I will tell you this: the episode also has H.G. Wells in it.
That's a spoiler. That's the twist at the end.
No, it's not.
You're rich, not.